Hey everyone, this is Ashley with What's Up Under That. So today I have a very special guest that is joining us. Her name is Peggy, and I'm going to give her the floor to, talk about herself, what it is that she does, and just tell her story.
Hey everybody, my name is Peggy and I have a background in French philosophy and linguistics from a four-year university, and I am currently studying to be a cosmetologist and to get licensed to hopefully be doing makeup art and nails full time. But I am a freelance makeup artist and artisan as of right now. I like to make beaded jewelry, clothing, handbags, lots of beaded stuff in particular, but anything fashion or beauty, I absolutely love.
And just having the background with linguistics and philosophy, how do you personally feel that those two things intertwining, how did they affect or impact your artistic work, or just the work that it is that you do with beauty and jewelry and beading?
Well, the reason why I wanted a deeper understanding of linguistics, which is the science of language, is because I'm also a writer. I like to write short stories and poetry, and I thought it would be a great idea to blend the art of language and the science of language together so I could better master that as an author and to understand my craft better. And philosophy gave me a lot of topics to choose from to create art and to further expand my mind. So I never run out of ideas because I can just cross-reference to a philosopher I haven't delved deep into before. And I love French because French literature is like the best to me, especially 19th century literature, like the symbolist poets, Baudelaire, Rimbaud, all those amazing poets of that time.
That is really, really interesting. I never would have thought about it like that, honestly. Taking those things, and even with the conversations we had with the poetry and stuff that it is you write, I would have never thought to combine those two things. So given philosophy and then your love of writing as well, what would you say is your favorite, I guess, theme or genre in specific to write about?
I specifically love to write within the genre of magical realism because I love the idea of our everyday life sometimes being stranger than fiction. So throw a little fantastical elements in there here and there, but keep it to a believable story, and you've created a reality that transcends reality but is still believable.
Okay. And just as far as and I think the word is, you gotta excuse me, I think want to say the word is enveloping, but have you ever taken any of your own life experiences and combined it with the specific genres of poetry that you like to write?
Yes, that is something I am looking to delve deeper in right now. Because I do come up with a lot of abstract ideas, but I do have a lot of personal experiences that I kind of want to fantasize, because some of the experiences are very traumatic, but I want to put it in a way that's almost like a fantasy book, so it's more digestible, and there's like a greater reason in the end that the main character went through all this trauma. So think of Harry Potter meets Lord of the Rings. But yeah.
Oh, that's
I was
interesting.
just going to mention that's kind of the mode I'll be working in that fantasy mode. I really want to make it a coming of age story and an adventure story, which Harry Potter is the coming of age in a fantasy setting, and Tolkien is the hero's journey in an epic in a fantasy setting. So I want to do something like that, but make the main character go, she or he will still be going on the hero's journey, but it'll take place in a way that there's going to be religious themes as well, and almost like the person is becoming a saint, so it'll almost be like religious fiction as well. Like, this is what the main character had to go through to become a saint, and then there's going to be like a battle between the heavens and the earth, and it's going to be this big thing. That's why I say Tolkien, because he had religious themes as well.
That's very interesting, and I'm like, just even visualizing how that will look, because I know recently on social media there's been like a lot of talk of people wanting to see, spin-offs of each character from Harry Potter, like their own version of their stories and things like that. So just even given the stories that you want to create and how it intertwines with the poetry that you write, would you say that, or would you, I guess, claim the way that you write poetry to almost be in a form of like short stories, so to speak, and then the fantasy fiction that you want to combine will just be more so drawn out versions of the poetry? Or would you even like see yourself taking the poetry that you've written and almost kind of like creating spin-offs of it to make one whole story?
I have definitely expanded some poems to be more like an epic journey, and this fantasy series that I'm kind of talking about is actually based on a long epic poem. I just put the very bare bones of the entire plot in one long poem, and it's completely condensed into that. And now I'm trying to elongate it, build some flesh and blood onto its bones and make it more prose instead of just an epic poem. So I really love picking from my poetry to translate it into prose. And as far as poetry, I also really love describing everyday objects in a way that it makes it think you're reading about something more grand. Like, I can write a quick little poem about a lampshade, and it's just describing a lampshade, but you think it's talking about more like enlightenment, or a beautiful lady who has golden hair, things like that. I love personification. I love all kinds of figurative language. So I definitely use a lot of figurative language in both prose and poetry, but they do interplay with each other.
I really love that. I know me personally, just even bringing music into the picture, I'm a really, really huge fan of like Lil Wayne, more so because of his lyricism and the amount of metaphors. So like, I'm a huge fan of people that integrate metaphors into either, their music or the way that they write, even though essentially poetry is music. It's just music without a beat to it.
Yes, and I definitely consider a lot of rap music to be poetry with the beat behind it, because you were talking about Lil Wayne, and he does have double and triple entendres in his metaphors, but he also has a very distinct rhythm or flow. They would say flow in rap, we would say rhythm or meter in poetry, and it's I don't think it can be separated from poetry. You know what I mean?
No, I definitely agree with that for sure, because I know too, I don't know if like you've ever had this experience in the past, but I know like there were guys that I was friends with in high school, and even like I've considered dabbling in it in this moment, but there were a lot of guys in high school that I would like ghost write music for. And I really love the idea of being able to use metaphors in the music, because it's one thing to create and listen to music that's very surface level, like you don't have to really think too much or put two and two together to understand what they mean. But when you're combining different things and like really like essentially layering the lyrics and including metaphors and then the entendres as you mentioned, I really feel like it takes music to a whole new height when you have the ability to do that, especially as a writer with poetry.
Right. And that's the cool thing about music, is that you're giving another layer, you're adding the sound element to reading. So, I mean, you can even do that with regular poetry. You can listen to background music and read your favorite poems, and then realize, like, you know, you really can appeal to more than one sense in a piece of artwork. I don't necessarily consider myself too educated about producing music. I play a little bit of piano, but I do listen to my favorite rappers and artists as I create to keep me on track. So.
No, I really love that. And I wanted to ask you too, a writing page on Instagram as well. I want to say it's pronounced Margaret. Is it Corbeau?
That's right.
Okay. What exactly made you decide to choose that as a pen name, and like what was the, I guess, inspiration or the significance behind choosing that name?
That's really funny you asked that, because in a sense it was a small spiritual awakening too, but I almost wanted to create a separate persona, not to add to myself, but to keep the writer part of me safe as I'm writing. So I named her Margaret Corbeau. And Margaret I chose simply because I felt led to choose that because it's so similar to my name already, and I heard it from God or spirit, whatever you want to call it. So that's my first name. And then Corbeau is actually French for like a raven or a large crow. Mm-hmm. And even though I do really love ravens, there's kind of a subtle nuance to Corbeau, because the colloquial phrase in French, maître de corbeau, it means like a master murderer almost. So there's like an element of mystery and kind of a gothic theme behind the last name. I do really love Poe and Gothic literature, as well as symbolism and magical realism. Mm-hmm. And I thought it might be interesting to have it have a dark connotation, but you have to read my writing to figure out, okay, is this writer the villain, or are they just telling a story, or are they the good guy? But you got to find out.
Mm-hmm. No, I honestly, and I was talking to a girl about this maybe some months back, like in like summertime of last year. I really love, like, not even just so much like poetry or literature that has kind of like that gothic feel, but just even to the aesthetics with that time, you know, mixing in the Victorian era with vampirism and what was the other one called, and just vintage overall. Like, I really love how nothing about those time periods and nothing about that era was surface. Like, everything was very deep and very potent, so to speak.
Right. Yes. And it the metaphor itself, Maître Corbeau, or like mistress of murder or whatever, it's kind of a double entendre, because it's talking about killing my poetry or killing it at whatever I write. So yeah, there's that play in there with the phrase in itself. So I have a lot of layers, and not just my pen name, but even the titles of my short story will be like an idiom in French. And for example, one is called L'Esprit d'Escalier, which is simply a phrase that means a comeback made too late, like telling a joke and you come up with a clever comeback, but you said it a little too late for it to have any effect. So I named my short story that, but it's actually talking about a small Huguenot town in France, which a Huguenot is just a French Protestant. It's about a Huguenot small town that gets raided by Catholics, and they had just adopted the Gutenberg press and were becoming more literate and starting to become enlightened. But it's all about the aftermath of that battle and how they were too late in their acquisition of knowledge, if that makes sense.
No, that makes perfect sense. And that made me realize another question I wanted to ask you. You know, if you feel comfortable talking about this, if not, that's completely fine. Just like, and I know we've had conversations about this as well, just like with the trauma and the different things that it is that you went through, how do you feel like the way that those things shaped you as a person? How do you feel that impacted you as far as a writer, or just the ways in which that you choose to write?
I was often left to my own means as a child, so I had a lot of room to play with my imagination and concepts by myself. And I learned rejection at a young age, so not being published yet and being denied by a few publishers has not gotten me down. It just means that wasn't the exact company for me at that moment. I actually got one rejection quite recently that was actually the most gracious and helpful rejection I've ever gotten. And I was kind of moved to tears, not because I got rejected, but because I almost got into the literature magazine. And they said, your work was really good and we had a hard time denying it, but here are some other people that you can apply to. And so what you do is you just read the email, say, okay, accept that you've been rejected, but you realize that the editor appreciated your work and they're giving you better options as to who to go to next, because maybe that magazine in particular was on a different genre than what I write in. For example, it could have been just Southern Gothic or historical fiction. Maybe I need to go to a more, fantastical magazine or something like that. So rejections are just another step away from a yes. As of right now, I am thinking of self-publishing a poetry book first on Amazon and see how that does, so I can get something out there that might sell a few copies. And then after some publishers have seen that I've completed some work that has sold a little bit, maybe I have a better chance at traditional publishing after that.
I definitely feel like, especially too, from what it is that I've seen and what I've observed, I feel like Amazon will be a really good space for you, because just one of the things that I always pay attention to when I'm on Amazon is like how certain books are rated or what is the most popular. And just even from, the recommendations that I see on TikTok and all those things, I know your genre specific is something that's very popular, especially for what they call it on TikTok, book talk. So I feel like that would be a really good space for you as far as publishing. And with that too, I did want to ask, I don't know if you have anything on hand or if you would feel comfortable doing so, but would you mind reading one of your poems?
Ooh, I actually could pull up my Google Drive and find I am like the low tide that misses the warm beach sand, but now I live in the deepest water that does not move. I sit, from dismal brooding, a halt of the present. I see prophecies to come, one for love, one for glory, one for opulence, all everlasting. My soul is a pearl rolled into my shell, protecting me from the deep water beasts. I no longer can swim, you have fins. Do you dare to dive in the dark? Bring me high tide, and you bring back stories untold that the dark sea holds. I sashay like the seaweed, the creatures of the high tide, longing for life on earth once more. My coffin needs no nail, the bottom of the sea tell no false tales.
Girl. Oh my God. When I tell you the amount of emotions and things that I just felt, like I was sitting here, like as you started like going into your poem, when like the wind started to pick up, like the ripples in the pool were moving. I got chills through my body. Oh my goodness. That was so freaking beautiful.
Oh my gosh, thank you. Yeah, that's crazy you say that, because I'm kind of get a little stage fright about reading my poems out loud. I'm the type of person that just writes them, and I haven't really gone to spoken word poetry much to perform my own work. But I'm glad that it evoked all those senses and everything, because it's really about what's going on in this person's psyche, but it's like after their deaths, they're at the bottom of the sea. You know, nothing can break them down anymore. It's just the bottom of the sea, and nature takes over, and the main character has all these realizations, but it doesn't come to much because the person is passed away.
You see, I can definitely see now how it is that you mentioned about the way that you layer your work, because even with the like coffin metaphor that you spoke about, the way that it is that you like to layer your work, if I would have read that on my own, even with the coffin metaphor in there, I would have never known that that was like the underlying message of the poem.
Right. And I usually don't give a background or explanation on my writings. I did to you because I am presenting it for the first time, but I like to see what people come up with as themes without telling them anything first, because I get a wide range of things. I'll be like, I don't even know what it's about. You tell me. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just telling you what I was thinking of when I wrote that poem. But if you got all these emotions from another theme, sure, we can add that theme on there if that's what it was to you, you know?
And see, I feel like I didn't even really get much of a theme from it, not because it's not even there or because it's not present, but just more so because I was so lost in the words and just the delivery and the way essentially how it is that you deliver the poem. Like, and that's like one of the things, I go to poetry slams often and I've been judges for them, and that's one of the things that I look to as far as how I score people. Of course, you know, score on delivery, metaphors, how did it make you feel, just how was the poem overall. But the way that I score with people is if like a poem brings me to, if it brings me to tears, or if it's like my body like has chills going through it so much to the point that my body tenses up. That is the way that I personally like score and rate poems, and I felt all of that while listening to you read yours.
That's amazing. Yeah, because I really love my poetry is kind of more aesthetic. Like, I can write about almost nothing and not have a theme. Like I said, I can write about a literal lamppost and nobody even knows that I got inspiration from a lamppost, because my wordplay and everything talks about other themes. But I named it Tides because in making all of these realizations and experiencing all these deep emotions during life, we always come back to the call of nature. So it's like a tide in between waxing and waning, in between being human and returning back to the earth, kind of.
No, I really, really love that. That was, that outside of jewelry and everything that made you decide to want to pursue your cosmetology license?
It's almost like an inside joke with myself, because the world can be so ugly you don't even want to go on, but I almost ironically make it so pretty again that you'll get sick of it. Like, it's my own kind of FU to how rigid reality and how brutal reality can be day to day. So a little bit of beauty never hurts. I especially like practical beauty, like fashion and jewelry, because it's something handmade and it's something unique, but it's also practical in daily life. So I wanted to I just want to make daily life a little bit more inspirational, or just a little bit more beautiful. And wanting to pursue my cosmetology license also came out of a place of necessity. And I know a lot of people went through this during COVID, but of course, everyone was broke during that time. So I taught myself how to do my nails during COVID, and I've been doing my own makeup, like, more advanced makeup for the past maybe 7 or 8 years. And I've been doing nails almost 2 years now, I guess. Maybe 3, but between 2 and 3. And I just believe in being as resourceful as possible. So I wanted to save money, do my own nails. And then I thought to myself, well, I can just get the education and the license and charge people to do nails and makeup. And that can help provide for me as I write, as I finish my 4-year degree, and do whatever else I need to do in life, like pay off debts and things. Cosmetology can be lucrative if you apply yourself and you have a business-oriented mind. And so far, I'm really excited about it, and it's looking pretty promising.
I really, really love that. One thing, too, that I wanted to say that I love, because I was like looking at your Instagram before we got on here and everything, I love how, like, how that saying goes, how does the saying go when it comes to how people are as a brand? I don't have a brand, I am the brand. Because when I was looking at your story, I had noticed, I was like, I caught a glimpse of the earrings, and then I like went and clicked back. I was like, wait, no, those are her earrings.
I kind of just promote myself within my own other facets of my brand or my writing, and use social media and just keep posting. I don't have an LLC or a corporation yet, but I do see that becoming a possibility very soon. So I think the reason why you say that is because Instagram and TikTok are kind of my only modes of communication about my 2 different services I have right now, the writing and the beauty. I split it between writing and then everything else, which is jewelry, clothes, and the cosmetology stuff on my main account. But I do have an idea brewing. I'm not going to say the name of the brand yet, but I have a very almost humorous name for my brand in mind, and it would incorporate both my beauty services and the things I make. So I think it'll be a good all-encompassing name.
So as you were saying that, I got an amazing idea. Like, I don't know, like, I'm one of those people, like, when they were like, if you have any requests for the DJ, put it in. I love putting in requests for people, especially people that do makeup. Would you ever consider, because I know too, you post your makeup looks on Instagram, and I know I would see you post them on TikTok. Would you ever consider reading your poems as voiceovers and doing a makeup look based on that poem?
Ooh, that's a really attention-grabbing idea. I would have to think about that, because that sounds really good, but that would be incorporating my pen name into my regular name on my personal account. But maybe I could even, because I kind of view my pen name account as faceless. But what I could do is promote myself as an author on my main page while I'm doing my makeup, because I want to leave my pen name account just for the writing itself, but I can promote my writing from my main account. So I could do that. That sounds really interesting, actually.
Yeah, I would always see I'd always see like how people, like how they do the true crime stories and all of that stuff, or how, like, I don't know if you've ever seen those videos on TikTok where they have like the Reddit accounts and they're like cooking a dinner or doing something like weird with crafts and stuff, and then they have the Reddit story playing in the background, and it's like both are so attention grabbing that you don't know which one to pay attention to, but sometimes the video just actually ends up being background noise while the person on the Reddit account is telling the actual story.
Yeah, that's really cool that you bring up now for the second time a way to incorporate your art in more than one sense, with, again, the reading and the hearing and seeing someone do something else as they're reading. I guess I keep things separate because I have such a one-track mind when it comes to my goals. Like, I like to do one thing at a time, cross it off, and then move to the next. But it wouldn't hurt to try to make things a little bit more holistic.
Yeah, I feel like that would be really cool, because like, even too, like, I'm still stuck on the poem that it is that you like read, and it's like whenever I like have an idea for something and the wheels keep turning, because like the main thing I'm thinking of is like even creating like I don't even know how that would be possible, because I haven't touched my makeup brushes in God knows how long, but even creating like a deep blue sea type of look, but like integrating the colors that come into play when you think of like a coffin, like browns or burgundies or blacks, or just even different things like that, essentially creating a story with your makeup, so to speak.
Definitely. And I can put those makeup looks on my main account and, just quote my pen name so people can check out the poetry itself if they're interested. Some people are more interested just in my makeup and things, and some people are more interested just in the writing. And why not get those two groups of people together for a moment?
No, that sounds like it would be a really amazing idea. And I know you mentioned just with wanting to get your LLC and all of the other things that are intertwined in that, how exactly do you feel like that will enhance your brand and the services that it is that you offer? Like, will it put you in a space to where everything will be its own separate entity, or would you want to kind of combine everything in a way where it's like a boutique, so to speak?
Okay. Be like a boutique, because even with the cosmetology services, I could rent a studio suite and do nails and makeup and then have a stand of my jewelry and things in the salon to sell. A lot of makeup artists and beauty professionals sell products as well as give their services, and that is actually what they recommend you do to capitalize as much as you can off of things, because you can only make so much doing nails because you can't be booked 24 hours a day every day. So you want to try to maximize what you can give, introduce a product, make an ebook that explains the process of keeping your nails healthy or your skin healthy, something to go along with just your main niche service so you can capitalize more. And I want to get an LLC or corporation, depending on whatever my financial advisor and I deem the best financially and practically for myself. I want to do that because I want to support Margaret with this brand. So I don't, if that makes sense. When I'm in Margaret mode, I just want to worry about making the best story ever. My brand will supply me the food, the housing, the shelter, whatever crazy things I need to be able to get in the mode to write. And I'll be like dependent on myself with my services and products.
I really love the way that you worded that, how like you said all of these things are going to support and essentially finance Margaret. Like you can definitely tell like how like you can see that demarcation line between how all of those services are like their own things, and then Margaret is like, it's almost kind of like the standalone, like she carries, like her being able to carry her own weight. I really love the way that you worded that.
Yeah, you can kind of think of it like me, Peggy. I'm the mother that's going to completely support Margaret completely while she's just writing. So that's why I'm trying to build a strong foundation first, get my license and my brand going so I can be able to afford not just more money for resources that I need when I write, but time as well.
No, that's honestly and truly, especially just learning from my own experiences and my trial and errors that I've had. That is the best thing that you can do. And I really love too how you like stated the fact of like, what you want your main focuses to be, and even too just with cosmetology, because a lot of times I have seen people make cosmetology their sole source of income, and then they may branch off and they may make hair products, or they may do collaborations with celebrities and all those things. But to have that to be where it's like, this is where I utilize my income to be able to fund the other things that I want more so on the forefront, rather than those things being the back burner and cosmetology being the face of everything that it is that you do. Now, I know you mentioned too about jewelry, and we haven't really touched on that. Do you mind just sharing some insights into the process of how it is that you create your handmade jewelry, and also forgot to mention clothes? Like, what type of materials do you like to work with? Do you have like any items that you make that are your favorite, or just any type of technique or styles that you can, like, if somebody was to have your jewelry or your clothing like lined up, somebody could look at it and point it and be like, okay, I know that that's Peggy's work?
Okay, right now I'm really obsessed with just buying white or black fabrics, and I'm actually focusing on having different material fabrics and working just with black and white, so I can hone in just on structure right now with clothing, instead of getting caught in the details of color and things like that. So I usually love working with cotton and linen or leather, but right now I'm playing with some more stuff like faux fur, satin, things like that. And there's some more fabrics I still want to play with, but I'm working more with form right now in clothing rather than color or style. I'm really getting to the basics. And with the jewelry, I love beaded jewelry because it's a part of my heritage. My grandmother not just taught me how to sew, but she taught me how to make beaded, like Western style necklaces as well. And beading just really grounds me, and I can be as colorful as I want with beading or not. It's just all about learning new patterns and being okay with making a lot of redundant movements after the other. So it does take a lot of patience, but I'm the type of person, I have to work on being patient with myself. So beading and taking the time to sit down and really focusing on something for 2 or 3 hours at a time until it's done, not just makes me feel more grounded, but it makes me feel more accomplished because depending on what it is I'm beading, it doesn't necessarily take a whole day of sitting down to finish a piece, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. I know, like, just from like looking at your Instagram, of course, a lot of your primary focus, I know you like how you mentioned working with beads and pearls and things like that. What exactly would you say is your favorite type of jewelry to create?
I would have to say the very small seed beaded jewelry. I like pony beaded jewelry a lot too, but more so seed beaded because it's more of my background and heritage, and it's an art form that is thousands years old.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a part of my ancestors as well. So it's also a way of staying close to my family in a means.
Mm-hmm. And even like integrating that, I know you mentioned as far as the materials with clothes you like to work with leather. Would you ever like consider making like either coin, I wouldn't say so much coin purse because I don't know how that would work with leather, but like even making like small like shoulder bags or small purses and integrating the beadery with the leather?
Yes, actually my next little side project will be making a small pony bead clutch purse.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be enough to hold like your credit cards, some lipstick, and a couple other things. But I'm really excited about that because I just finished a pony beaded water bottle holder. That's a whole mouthful. And that actually turned out a little easier than I thought it would be because it was a very intricate pattern. So if I can figure out the pattern and form of a water bottle, maybe it won't be so bad for a 3D purse, and you kind of just like weave the string in between the beads and it gives it its form. And it's just so cool to see something as small as a pony bead that can be turned into a handbag.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, so many families have just like jars of beads stashed around for their kids to throw down or play with, but I'm really all about not just practicality, but in a sense, sustainability, like using everything you've got to make it better.
No, I almost, even that, like, I really do feel like personally, sustainability and alchemy go hand in hand. because it's alchemy is like that very same thing. You know, whatever it is that you have laying around and whatever it is that you have left or available, utilizing that to create something else from it.
Precisely. Because even in the Bible, according to the Bible, God made man out of dust. So why not use a lot of basic or other ugly things to make it into something profound and beautiful?
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're one of God's greatest creations. So being an artist or an artisan, it's a lot like playing God with your little objects and putting them together into something else, and being the alchemist and using your own imagination to create your own reality and have things to go to show for it.
No, I really agree with that. And that's also too, like for me, how it is that I view working with herbs, because I feel like sometimes people just put herbs in the category of like yoni steams and teas, but they don't realize like it can be used for hair rinses, it can be used for what's like spiritual baths. You can use it to infuse those properties into products that are used. And I think like even for me, that's why I love using herbs as a medium, because people really don't realize there are so many different things you can do with herbs. I mean, even for some people, utilizing it in like candle workings and candle magic and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's one thing I've noticed, that you kind of have more ability than I do in a sense. You're really good with plants and herbs, and it's not that I can't use herbs to make hair rinses or shampoo and things like that. I just don't have a green thumb. I don't have the patience or the time to make things grow as I want them to do, because I'm such a perfectionist that I just want the plant to hurry up and grow. But it's just a process, you know. And a lot of people, I'm kind of not envious of people with green thumbs, but I really think it's interesting and admirable, because a lot of people will develop a relationship with their plants or their herbs, and that probably makes a big difference in their products as well. You know, a plant treated well during growth that's crushed up and put into some shampoo that had a good life will probably fare better than a shampoo with herbs that were grown in a really dingy, dusty, dark room that someone was just growing just well enough to be able to pass inspections and put it in a bottle and mass distribute it. You know what I mean?
No, I definitely agree with that for sure. And I feel like I feel like you really described that perfectly, because that's honestly why I have sat, and I feel like that's something I still battle with. If do I want my products to be mass created and go like put in stores? And the only reason why is because I love the fact that I am able to control the energy. I'm able to control the energy and the intention that it is that I put into my products exactly. And I don't know, I feel like a lot of times that intention and I think the word I'm looking for is like ingenuity. I feel like that gets lost when certain things are mass created.
I think, unfortunately, a lot of times when quantity overrides quality at a high degree, that's kind of a turnoff for me, because even though you'd be mass distributed, you'd be in Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, whatever, and you can make all this money, you kind of lose out on the reason why you started this in the first place. Because I know for me personally, I don't think I could have my jewelry and clothing mass distributed. I might, sell some designs or something to be mass produced, but I want to keep control over at least most of the things that I make. And there's nothing wrong with going on a much bigger scale, but you have to have a lot of resources behind you to be able to keep that quality and keep your reputation. And you have to put a lot more hours of work in as well if you want to keep that quality.
No, that's definitely true for sure. And I feel like even me personally, that's why I personally love shopping with small businesses, and even why I want to say it was back in like between 2019 and 2021, I would say at least 75 to 80% of the like products that I use, like shampoos and lotions and deodorants, all of those things I was purchasing all from small businesses.
Mm-hmm.
And I just love the idea like of knowing somebody like that I know that I can speak to, that I can have a conversation with, is the one that created these products. Or it's like, even too, there's one girl that I used to shop with for like all my hair care and skincare things, and I just love the interactions that it is that I would have with her. And like even too, like she began to make me feel like family. Like if I told her like, hey, I noticed like I've been going through X, Y, and Z skin issue, or I need like these products for my son, she would either be open to making customized things, or she would kind of utilize something that it is that I brought to her as an inspiration and create that for her business. So it's like, not only was it available for me, it was also available for other people that may be dealing with those same issues that wanted to purchase from her.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and that's one of the things I love about being an entrepreneur or knowing other artists, is that you can create a bartering system for things that you might not be particularly as skilled at. And the next artist is, though. For example, I have a very close friend that does many types of artwork, but right now is focusing on making handmade rugs. And they're really abstract and colorful and amazing. They're not just any kind of run-of-the-mill rug with a few flowers on it, or like in standard design. Like you can tell that this was sketched out beforehand, stitched each string strand by strand, and it takes her hours upon hours. So we can make a system where the value of me doing her nails would be maybe almost equal a rug. You know, if it comes up that the rug costs a little bit more than the nails, then I can braid her hair too, and I can get a rug and she can get her hair and nails done. You know, and you can replace those two things with anything. If someone has chickens that lays eggs, you can trade them in for herbs or whatever. I love that about artists, entrepreneurs, and just skilled people in general. Like I love the idea of bartering.
You know, that's one thing that I can definitely say I am a huge fan of. I will barter my little heart away. Like, and I noticed too, like whenever I bring up bartering in certain spaces, a lot of people aren't always aware of what it is. But like when you tell them, you explain to them, they're like, oh yeah, like, oh my goodness, I would love to do something like that. And I feel like, I don't know. I'll shop through big corporations if I absolutely have to. But I don't know. Me personally, I really, really love to barter. Just for me, I always find it a little bit harder when it's like when people like, because I've bartered with some people, they're like, look, what products do you want? And I'm like, are we going like product for product, price for price? They're like, whatever it is that you want to do. And then there's also the spaces where like people do it price for price, because I know in some instances some people's items, they may have to choose a lot more just to equal the value of what it is that they're wanting to match with that other person. So sometimes that can be a little bit finicky with bartering, but other than that, I love it. I really do wish that more people bartered more, not even just so much within the entrepreneurial space, But even like too, as far as farmers markets, I don't know, like if you said you're in what state did you say that you're in?
Tennessee.
Do you guys have like farmers markets and stuff out there too? Because I know we have them out here.
We do have farmers markets. We have a really big one in North Nashville, like in the metro area. And it's a lot of organic food from people all over Tennessee, but not just food, but handmade jewelry, soaps, all those types of things where people of all types of businesses can come together in one place and sell something that is not mass distributed, more organic or handmade stuff that's better for you. And one last point on bartering, I think one of the reasons that people don't quite grasp the concept of bartering or are kind of not too keen on trying it is because I think a lot of people don't realize that money is not necessarily a resource. Now, money is the middleman to having a lot more resources. So the more money you have, the more potential resources you can have, but it's not a resource in itself. It is a middleman to be able to get the resource you need. So all you're doing during bartering is replacing that money for a product with another product. And I think that's where people get tripped up on, because they think that cash has to be paid for everything when, not just cash, but resources are a part of your wealth as well.
You made a really good point with that, and honestly, I would have never seen it from that perspective. Like, because I know and understand that money is just a resource, but when you realize that sometimes it's not even the grocery stores or it's not even the big corporations that are the middleman, it's the money. Because it's like the only thing that's separating you from owning those things or having that item or having, whatever the case is money. Because it's like, if it was ever an instance where car dealerships were like, look, if you have X, Y, and Z of equal value, we can do a trade. I mean, that would more than likely happen through like a private owner. Like if somebody was selling their car, like in a neighborhood or something, like, hey, I can do work on your car in exchange for you giving me this car rather than me buying it. But that would be a whole different story. And kind of like tail ending back to what you were saying about the farmers markets. Now, I know you did say like certain aspects of your business you aren't really interested in mass producing. So like, given the opportunity to, or even if you took that opportunity for yourself to sell your handmade items at farmers markets and things like that, how exactly would you envision your brand evolving from there? Or it's like, do you have any like specific goals or milestones that you want to achieve, I guess I want to say within your city or your state limits, or is there to some capacity that you want to go beyond that?
Yeah, so I've been thinking about selling at the farmers market myself and starting to go to craft fairs. The only thing about that is that you do have to pay like a booth fee to be able to set all your things up. But after that, after you've paid your booth fee, if you have enough things that are sold at the end of the day or at the end of the craft fair, you'll come out making more profit than what you pay for the booth rental. And sometimes you can even just go to craft fairs to meet other artisans, and they will give you a small portion of their booth for a discounted price. So it's a lot about networking too. Now, as far as going beyond that, I'm not too sure yet. I kind of want to start like in my city and then branch off from that if I can.
As far as like, like between writing poetry and doing makeup and jewelry, I know as far as like more things that have a face to it, what challenges exactly have you faced with like building your business? Or I guess more so, I wouldn't even say so much building your business right now, but building your brand. And based off of those things, what advice would you offer to someone else needs to know what they can or cannot do, or just people specifically beauty world, with makeup and jewelry and stuff like that?
I would say that you've got to believe in your vision more than you experience negative comments or hatred or setbacks. Because you can go into cosmetology or beauty and make a lot of money and not necessarily have passion for it, but to have a really long-lasting, successful brand in beauty, it needs to have a vision. It needs to have an audience, and you've got to believe at the end of the day that showing up every day, trying to be a little bit better than you were the day before at what you're doing, and staying positive will get you through all of the slow days, all of the days that you're dealing with hate from other people, because a lot of people will throw jealousy or hate at you because a lot of entrepreneurs or artists have to work on their self-confidence, and having that confidence, a lot of people will think you're stuck up or bitchy when that's not necessarily the case. It's that you just truly have to believe in the vision. Even if you don't believe in yourself that day, you've got to pretend like you believe in yourself, because even if you're struggling with self-doubt that day, you've still got to believe in your plan and your vision, because no matter how you feel about it, your plan and your vision and your foundation is there, and you've got to keep building onto it just a little bit every day.
That is so true. Now, I'm not always a fan of being delusional, but honey, when you are creating a brand or you have a vision for something that only you and God can see, you essentially have to be delusional. Because like you said, you're going to have those high and those low moments, those days where you may or may not always feel confident in yourself, and just having that reminder, this is what I'm doing this for. Because I feel like too, and I was just recently talking about this with my therapist, sometimes it's so often to get worked up on the fine details of what you're doing that you forget the initial goal of why it is that you're doing this.
Right.
No.
Yes, it does take a small amount of delulu to be an entrepreneur, but I would say that most of the time, after time has spanned across, you might come off a little delulu at times, but you really are able to see after some time what reality you can create for yourself by yourself.
That is very, very true. And just, I would say all encompassing, like if you had somebody that is an artisan, an author, and an entrepreneur in front of you, what is one valuable lesson that you feel you could give to all of them, like the same lesson that could apply for all three people? What's something that it is that you have learned that could also help them?
If I were sitting in the room with a few people that are from very different careers or modes of thinking, I would say pretty much the same thing. Like, even if you don't believe in yourself, believe in your vision, because it's there for a reason. And I'm a very practical person, so I would tell anybody of any career background, if you can make a plan and lay out your moves A, B, and C, and make backup plans where if A doesn't work, you've got another route to go, you will eventually accomplish your overarching goals in life, because you are teaching yourself to become flexible, to stay to your plan, but also bounce back when there's setbacks, because there will be setbacks no matter what you do for money in life. I would just say you've got to have a vision and you've got to have a plan. You can love something, but loving to do something isn't necessarily going to be successful in itself. You've got to have a direction to put that love in.
I definitely agree with that for sure. And I know just even for me, I feel like the biggest thing is knowing, just like a relationship, whether it be you are creating something, whether you're building something, or whether you're an author, I feel like just like any relationship, it's really important to give yourself breaks and space from those things, because even certain things that you have a passion for, you can get tired of. And when you start to get tired of something, it feels like a chore. So now it's like, now that it feels like a chore, there is this gap in this space that's being created between you and that goal or that project or that poem or that idea that it is that you want to bring into fruition, because now it feels like a chore, even though sometimes with this journey there is no getting out of some of these things feeling like chores, because it's like, it's all fun and games in the beginning, when you're learning about it, you're getting in the field, but then when you realize, like, just much like the way that you write your poetry, there's a lot of layers to reaching that point that you want to reach, and it can be discouraging. But like I said, that's why I feel like if I had to say something, I would definitely say, don't be afraid to take breaks.
Yeah, and I think that's why we're such a dynamic duo, because I'm the type of person, I don't want to take breaks. I want to keep going. I want to keep producing. But you do have to put your health first, and you do have to take care of yourself, give yourself breaks and things like that. I'm such a type A person that I would even go so far as to say that it's not that I'm allowing myself to have a break. It's that I'm allowing myself to recharge to be able to work harder later. Because as you already know, I am a Capricorn rising, so I have a pretty good balance of work ethic with my inspiration, and I just have, my bigger issue is not burnout, but more so getting caught up in my inner thoughts and feeling like I'm not doing enough or not producing enough, or it's not going the way that I'm going, versus wanting to take a break. And that's usually the moment that I probably need to take a break. So I'm glad that you pointed that out.
Yeah, I know. Me being a Capricorn moon, trust and believe I get it. And I feel like, like a muscle or like anything, learning that rest is not something that is earned, it's something that you deserve, is essential when you are a creator, whether it's, a creator or artisan, or you're creating a brand, or you're creating art such as poetry. Like, you have to give that muscle. I mean, shoot, even if you really want to add some more metaphors on top of it, it's just like the gym. Like, sometimes rest days are not simply because of exhaustion. Muscles, essentially, they cannot grow if you are not resting them. If you're just pushing and pushing,
yes,
you don't give them the space or the room to be able to grow.
Exactly. Yeah, it's about learning moderation and not being too extremely hardworking or being too lazy. Um, I'm such a freak that sometimes I daydream about going on vacation just to be able to write. You know what I mean? But now that I think about it realistically, I'm just like, maybe I deserve that vacation once I can get to that level in itself, and maybe put a restraint on wanting to work to just mornings I can write when I go to the Caribbean or whatever. And then in the afternoon, it's all about daiquiris and swimming at the beach and everything else.
Girl, that is absolutely calling my name. I'm sitting here.
Girl, I've
I'm
been
listening.
thinking about the Caribbean for the past 2 years. It's really been tugging at me. I want to go on a cruise so bad.
No, I'm exactly there with you. I'm sitting right by the pool, talking about all this and just diving into the things. But see, even just like as far as what you were saying about the vacation and just that being earned, like something that I really had to get into my mindset is everything, everybody's perception of it is different, but everything doesn't have to be grandiose, so to speak. But it's like, even to entertaining the idea of staycations.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like, even just with social media, staycations are so slept on because everybody wants to travel out of the country. They're like, well, at least if I'm gonna like do a vacation anywhere, why not do it outside of the US? But me, especially me being a single mom, and all of the other things, and an entrepreneur too, a staycation will definitely call my name just as much as the Bahamas or like something outside of the states will.
Yeah, for sure. And that is a budget-friendly way to do it as well. Or you can just focus on quality time with family and yourself, and just do things at home that you wouldn't normally be able to do because you're so busy usually.
Mm-hmm.
And it is starting to pick up with the storm here, which I think kind of adds nice ambiance, but it's kind of thundering now.
It was something I was getting ready to say, that Oya's presence, so beautiful.
Oh yes, the transformation. Just whenever I think of huge, deep transformations, I think of a tornado, and then of course Oya is like over the weather, so it really goes hand in hand.
That brings me to one last question I wanted to ask you. I meant to bring this up in the very beginning, but it was just, I was so caught up in the way that you were explaining, the genres and stuff of your poetry. But one last thing, I know how you mentioned Corbeau is tied into, like, Crow and things like that, and I know you have mentioned working with saints and things like that in particular. Do you feel that there may be any like deities or saints in specific that also inspire the type of work that it is that you do, or just even particularly inspiring your poems?
Oh yeah. Now that you mention that, maybe there is a saint or two that's just completely over my poetry in general. I'd have to explore that deeper, but just for making little hairbreadths, I had the idea of channeling different orishas of the traditional African religions into my breadths. Like for Osun, I did yellow, gold, coral, white. Oya, I did her burgundy, dark rainbow colors, and all like that. And Osane with the greens and the herb colors. But I don't know. I would say that there's definitely been some channeling of saints or entities on a subconscious level when I write, because the the inspiration is almost fever like sometimes. Like sometimes it feels like it's just coming straight through me instead of me producing it by myself, you know?
Mm-hmm. No, I can definitely relate to that for sure because I've done my own pieces, way speed inspired pieces, and I want to say I don't know if it was the first or the second one. It was the one I sent you actually. It was created with Yemaya in mind, and I
Mm-hmm.
could definitely feel her energy within the beads. Just because, like, during that point in time in my life, like, I was still really learning and understanding and being able to feel a sense of peace in peace. And the peace that was radiating off of those beads, it was enough to make me nauseous.
Mm-hmm.
So I can definitely relate to that in terms of channeling when it comes to the pieces that it is that you create and things like that.
Well, of you using different senses for one piece of art, like you use your higher self for waist beads and then it produces these different colors, that kind of ties into something I sort of deal with. I can't say clinically that I have synesthesia, but different letters and word pairings make me visualize things better than other word pairings and shapes of letters. I used to be able to almost feel the temperatures of different colors when I was a little kid. So it's like I said before, like the whole process is very inducing of the senses and just overall using all of your senses instead of just one, even though it looks like to other people like it's just colors on a piece of jewelry or it's just words on a piece of paper. But to me, sometimes it can look like a couple different senses blended together.
I definitely agree with that for sure. And I said I had this exact same conversation. I don't know if it was with you or if it was someone else a couple weeks ago. I was just like, people can't possibly think that color therapy isn't real because, think about when it's the wintertime, everything is dark. It's almost kind of like being in a black and white movie. And when spring and summer emerges, like just the feeling you get from seeing the color of the sun or seeing how green the grass is, or even just the emotions that are invoked when you see the colors of the leaves changing in the fall, like all of that has a very direct effect on our energy and just how the way that we perceive things around us. Like some people may look at the color of the leaves changing and like dread that summer is over, but for some people it may make them feel a sense of peace within themselves. I want to thank you again so much, Peggy, for joining me on here and just giving you the space to talk about everything that it is that you do and read your poems, because now that I think about it, I don't ever think, aside from like the ones that I've seen you post on Instagram, I don't think I've ever like actually heard you read any of your poems. So thank you for allowing me to hear your work.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much for having me. I'm glad that you challenged me out of my comfort zone a little bit because that is something that I've struggled with for a long time is reading my own work. But I feel like knowing you as a friend and someone that I can barter with time to time, it made me a lot more comfortable. And I think this is a good medium to start introducing my poetry more. And I'm going to definitely take your little helpful hints into consideration as I keep working on my Instagrams. And I also love how the storm is like culminating as we're ending the podcast.
No, I see, however it is that you take the suggestions that I gave, however you choose to implement them and bring to life. Now that I'm for sure looking forward to seeing.
Yeah, thank you so much. You're a presence that's always grounding to me. And I'm just really blessed to have a good support system beside me.
No problem, and thank you so much as well.